So Star Wars has been obviously around for a very long time, and therefore has a number of traditions at this point. One, of course, is Happy Star Wars Day, which was yesterday. May the 4th be with you. And then also a very good relationship with Vanity Fair, where they'll often spotlight the latest film in the pages of the, I wouldn't say fashion magazine, it's like a high-gloss editorial magazine. I love Vanity Fair. I'm a subscriber, I love it on my iPad, and I can't highly recommend the magazine enough. They have wonderful articles in it, which often end up being Hollywood movies. And they showcase a lot of Hollywood movies as well on their way to the big screen. So yesterday, these two traditions came together where Vanity Fair released a number of photos from their upcoming issue on Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, in honor of Star Wars Day. But there were so many reveals, and there was a lot of DC news yesterday as well, from Suicide Squad reveals late Sunday, that I covered the female characters that they talked about yesterday for Star Wars, namely Captain Phasma, which we now know is Gwendolyn Christie's character, the Chrome Trooper, as one of you pointed out, not a stormtrooper, a Chrome Trooper, but that also that Lupita Nyong'o would be doing a motion capture role in the film instead of personally appearing on screen. And I also talked about Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman, and one BTT viewer wrote in the comment section, "Come on, talk about the dude characters." So that's what today's episode is right here. This is the Men of Star Wars. And I think it's very funny that for Star Wars, J.J. Abrams is trying to turn a lot of stereotypes in Hollywood and society on their head. You've seen that in the casting, you've seen that in who he's chosen as the lead characters, and I think you even see it here in the coverage, because while the women are covered up, the whole theme of yesterday's episode was women in masks, with Gwendolyn Christie in a chrome mask and Lupita Nyong'o in a digital mask, and then even Daisy Ridley was wrapped head to toe in desert scarf wear. You have the men with the wind in their hair doing the real glamour shots. So I think that's really funny that the pinups that have come out of the Star Wars The Force Awakens coverage and Vanity Fair have been for the male characters. So we're going to talk about the guys of Star Wars Episode 7, the men of Star Wars Episode 7, and then also a very interesting announcement about another guy in the Star Wars universe, Boba Fett. All right, so starting out, let's start with this Adam Driver picture where he was revealed to be Kylo Ren. And he will not wear his mask at all times, so hopefully neither will Gwendolyn Christie's Captain Phasma. But anyway, I think this is the first thing I thought when I saw this photo. Well, he looks drastically different than he does on Girls, which of course is the HBO show with Lena Dunham that made him kind of like an up-and-comer in Hollywood and got him on enough radars around town that he landed this role. So I was like, wow, that's really high fashion. But then the other thing I thought to myself was, does the world really need Ezra Miller and Adam Driver? Until this, I hadn't really considered the similarities between the two actors. But of course, Ezra Miller was here first and more fantastically. So I'm rooting for Ezra Miller. Also, I think Adam Driver has been toning the role down a lot on Girls because he hasn't been available, I guess, because of this film. Maybe preparing to some degree to step away from that show, we'll see. But I don't know. Also, maybe because Adam Driver is so specific, just like Ezra Miller to some degree, but Adam Driver doesn't seem to have quite the range that Ezra Miller does, at least in the nuances in his performance. So, I don't know if Adam Driver's window of opportunity has passed. And it could come again, because this is such a major role. He'll be the villain in the film. So, I just think there's a lot of similarities to Ezra Miller, and if I were Ezra Miller or Ezra Miller's agent, I would be like, why didn't you just hire Ezra Miller? Now, of course, he's going to be hopefully Barry Allen the Flash in the upcoming, version of that character on the silver screen. Although some of us wonder maybe he'll play Wally West. We'll see. Although I think they said he'd be Barry. But Ezra Miller, it's not like he doesn't have his own opportunities that are coming along. He's in the upcoming Stanford Prison Experiment, which is an indie film that's getting a lot of buzz. But still, Ezra Miller would have brought a lot of fans to this franchise as well. But also he brings a lot of political aspects with him as well, being an openly, I believe, bi actor. But he's very open about that too, and I think that's part of what is so delightful about him and why he has such a strong fan base. Although, as you can see, it's hindering his career choices, or opportunities just a little bit. I think Hollywood's still not the most welcoming of places for openly non-straight actors. I know there are a lot of different categories these days, so I'm trying to be very respectful of that. This is a new discussion to a lot of us, so please, I hope you feel I'm handling it delicately and appropriately. So Adam Driver, to me so far, cheap Ezra Miller, or more mainstream Ezra Miller. And if you're going to go for an Ezra Miller type, why not go all the way? I'm very disappointed that Kylo Ren is not Mark Hamill. I'm very disappointed that he's not Andy Serkis. I think that Adam Driver's a little too on-the-nose obvious for the role, but let's see what he does with it. Of course, how can you not like this, the snowtroopers behind him? They look fantastic. I think it's funny that they tweak the masks just enough, as I've said, to create more toys and collectible items that you need to acquire if you're into Star Wars collecting. But they certainly do blend in quite well. Their camouflage is effective. Although I would think a stormtrooper would blend in just as well. I guess they're not as warm. Although they had the snow, in Empire Strikes Back, they were in the snow as well. So we'll see. But Adam Driver's character, he doesn't need an extra coat or anything. But I wonder why his mask is off here and not in some of the other things that we've seen. But he's revealed to be Kylo Ren. So I'm curious, what do you think of the reveal? How do you think he looks in the role? And what do you think of? Would you have preferred Ezra Miller? All right, next up, Poe Dameron, in a really cool pinup shot of him on the side of his X-Wing. That's a great shot. That's a really cool shot. The wind in his hair, very much a pilot photo. And I like that. I think that these fantasy worlds work out the best when you can draw parallels to the way you would see such things depicted in current times, right? We've seen so many photos like this of pilots throughout the years, military pilots with their aircraft, and I think that it's a really, there's something beautiful and peaceful about it, but yet also very heroic, because you can see the storm clouds gathering behind him. That's really, Annie Leibovitz, boy, worth every penny. I'm sure that she is paid for these amazing shoots. She's also the one that Disney uses to do celebrity versions of their fairy tale characters, something that was quite popular in advertising the parks and the studio in general, which I think helped lead to the live-action fairy tale situation that we currently see now. But she really outdid herself with this photo in particular. A lot of story going on here as well. And also, I like, there's such a pretty boy factor to Adam Driver's photo. That's why he's evil. But I like that there's a wariness and a real world, there's a real world quality to Oscar Isaac here. Like, the guy's lived. He's seen some stuff. And he looks much cooler here than when in the latest trailer, as I pointed out, when his helmet jostles around on his head. And you're like, that's not even sticking to your head properly. That's crazy. But it looks good. Great photo. Oscar Isaac looks very good. And I think if he plays his cards right, he could be a Han Solo type character with the new group. We'll see. We will see. Although that would mean John Boyega would be the Luke Skywalker, and we all know that's a thankless role. And he's not even the villain anymore. Oh, we'll see. Hopefully that story point is still available. Then next up, another photo, of course, is the cover for the Vanity Fair issue. And there's two photos here, actually. This one and the behind-the-scenes one when they were taking the photo. And I love it. I love that Harrison Ford, you can particularly see it in the behind-the-scenes photo, which I guess means it didn't translate so well in the actual photo. But he's giving good movie star face. And, there's a lot of jokes about his likeness, that he likes to indulge in a little marijuana smoking now and again, to the point where he's a little difficult to work with. And actually, I've heard rumors of him having to cancel meetings, or meetings having to be canceled because he's incoherent due to his proclivity for pot. But, he apparently still has a little bit of his wits about him, and he's able to still be turn on the movie star charm when needed. Or at least, as I said, in the photo shoot, if not in the actual photo. But what I think is interesting and very telling about this is that clearly, they don't just photograph people together for no reason, right? So I think that this shows that this will be one of the storylines, that Rey and Finn, they're going to meet each other. Finn is a stormtrooper, but then they are probably going to come together with Han Solo and Chewie, and BB-8, as you can see there in the background. So that's going to give Han Solo a really great storyline, and he's not going to be stuck, as some of us feared, sitting next to Princess Leia in some political conference room, being bored out of his mind, being like, why did I ever marry Princess Leia? This was a bad idea. So maybe that means he and Princess Leia are not together. It's very interesting. There's the line about we're home again, Chewie. Perhaps they find the Millennium Falcon in the salvage yard for destroyers, and somebody said you can't call them spaceships. What do you call the overall generic term for Star Wars for ships, like the Millennium Falcon and destroyers? They're spaceships, right? That's the generic term. But anyway, we all know that Rey's character frequents the salvage yard for ships to find materials. So perhaps she does come across the Millennium Falcon, which leads to that battle sequence we've also seen in the trailers, where the Millennium Falcon is trying to escape through other giant destroyed ships. So we're starting to piece the movie together. But that's fantastic. The only problem could be that with Han Solo is such a great character and so well portrayed by Harrison Ford. If he still has it in him, that's going to really raise the bar that Daisy Ridley and John Boyega will have to hurdle in order to make an impression themselves and their characters. So, yeah, anyone who's on screen with Han Solo has an uphill battle in terms of getting the audience's attention. All right, so those are the men of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, in terms of just the men of Star Wars in general, there was also an announcement yesterday about Boba Fett, which was very interesting indeed, and that he will be the focus of the second spin-off movie from Star Wars, this new initiative under Disney. It's going to be an origin film, and this was the film that Josh Trank was supposed to direct, but no longer will direct because he got fired. Or as he likes to say, quit over personal reasons, but everybody in town says it's because he was fired. So if you didn't see Morning Movie News yesterday, I discussed that at length. Very interesting story. But he sure missed out on an opportunity because I think Boba Fett is a fantastic character. Now, some people said, what's the point of a Boba Fett spinoff? The whole point of him is this mystery, etc., etc. But I'd like to point out that, Star Wars has worked very hard to bring some more diversity into lead roles, right? So let's not forget that Boba Fett is not a white actor. He's not going to be portrayed by a white actor. In the Star Wars movies, it's revealed, of course, that he is the son of Jango Fett, but son in a very loose term. Jango Fett is the original of which all the stormtroopers were cloned off of. And in exchange for allowing the Empire to have his DNA, he said, I want an unaltered clone, meaning not, bred for obedience, etc., for myself to be my son. And that was Boba Fett. So Jango Fett was played by he has many different nationalities in his background, but he happens to also be Maori, which is the Polynesian natives of New Zealand, and that was actor Tamura Morrison. And so you would need an actor like that to play Boba Fett. And that's very exciting. You would have a really cool action movie, right? Where the lead character is not a white male actor. That's a big deal. And so if Star Wars can do that, and it's a very, it's a lot of responsibility, which is another reason they might have felt Josh Trank wasn't up to such a sophisticated and important task. I would get Gareth Evans to replace him. Get two Gareths on these Star Wars spin-offs. You've got Gareth Edwards from Godzilla on Rogue One, and then I get Gareth Evans from the Raid fame to handle this Boba Fett origin film. Several of the Raid actors, the lead actors, are already appearing in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, so why not complete the set and fully bring that very popular and respected franchise, at least among fanboys and fangirls, into the Star Wars fold, to bring it, go all the way, get them all in there. Don't leave poor Gareth Evans out in the rain or that muddy prison pit just because he's not an actor, and have him handle that film. He did a wonderful job working out of Indonesia for the Raid movies, and I think that you could even consider, unfortunately they're going to be in Star Wars Episode 7, but it would be great if they could have cast the lead actor Iko Uwais, maybe. Maybe he'll be in a lot of makeup for Episode 7, so they can still get away with it, but I think he would make a wonderful Boba Fett. But this is very exciting indeed, and I'm curious to what you think of the way the men are being depicted in the Star Wars universe, both The Force Awakens and with this Boba Fett spin-off, origin story. And then also, what do you think of how Star Wars continues to try and break stereotypes and bad habits that Hollywood has? Do you think that's a wonderful way to utilize the Star Wars brand because it has so much muscle that it can kind of, are you not going to see Star Wars? Or do you think that all the social awareness could perhaps, weigh down the brand a little bit because people just want to have a good time? They don't want to be told how to think and react to society. Although, why wouldn't you have a good time, right? It's a real catch-22. But I think so far so good, the reaction to these reveals. Although we'll see. I know John Boyega had some problems, but he took care of that very nicely. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when the movie comes out. It would be horrible for Disney to overestimate another film, just like they did with Avengers: Age of Ultron. But I like what I'm seeing, and I'm curious to what you guys think now that we focused on the men of Star Wars after looking at the ladies yesterday. All right, thank you so much for tuning into my coverage. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you down below, and you can check out some other episodes right now.